All right, let's just jump right into it. Take a deep breath, get comfortable, because today we're tackling a deeply personal subject in this explainer. And honestly, it's something that touches absolutely all of us. I want you to imagine it's just the two of us sitting down over a cup of coffee, chatting about a struggle we basically share every single day. That's really the whole point of these sessions, right? We take the time to break down complex stuff to make it crystal clear and, more importantly, genuinely useful for your life. So today we are exploring procrastination. And I just want you to know right off the bat, before we even dive in, I completely get what you're going through. Now, let's be honest, this question stings just a little bit, doesn't it? Why do you constantly put off what truly matters to you? You know the task is important. You know full well you should just do it. In fact, you've probably been thinking about it since the second you woke up this morning. It's just sitting there, tucked away in the back of your mind like this silent pressure. Just a constant background noise that completely refuses to let you go. So why do we do this to ourselves, especially when it comes to the things we actually value the most? You literally spend your entire day thinking about it, mentally planning it out, telling yourself how amazing it would feel if it were just finished. And yet, at the exact moment you're supposed to begin, what happens? You grab your phone, you start scrolling through videos or memes you've probably already seen 5 times. You just push the work away. You sincerely tell yourself, oh, I'll do it later when I feel a bit more up to it. And then, predictably, that sticky, heavy feeling of guilt just washes right over you. But listen, I want to stop you right there and assure you of something. You are not broken. Actually, scratch that. This isn't even a lack of discipline, so please don't be so hard on yourself. There's a fascinating, much deeper mechanism driving this, and that is exactly what we're going to unpack. Okay, let's dive into this. Section 1, the myth of laziness. So we really need to deconstruct the biggest, most toxic misconception about procrastination. We almost always think that putting things off means someone is just lazy or horribly disorganized. But the reality, which is heavily backed by our analysis of the research, is completely different. Procrastination is actually an emotional management issue. It's a literal defense mechanism built right into your nervous system. Your brain isn't dysfunctional here. It's doing exactly what evolution programmed it to do, which is to protect you from things that feel uncomfortable. So it's really not about downloading a better productivity app. It's about understanding your own emotional landscape. Moving right along to Section 2, a matter of emotional analysis. It's all about avoiding the feeling. This is exactly why we absolutely have to look at this through an emotional lens. Here's the real secret. You aren't avoiding the task itself. Typing up that report, studying a chapter, writing a difficult email, the physical, mechanical actions of those things aren't actually hard. No, what you are desperately running from is how that task makes you feel when you face it. These are the real ghosts haunting your to-do list: the uncertainty, the overwhelming pressure, the self-doubt. And let's focus on a really specific one here: the fear of failing to reach your goals. I mean, it is paralyzing. Think about it. Imagine you want to launch a business or write a book. If you actually start working on it and the results is, well, mediocre, you painfully hit the wall of your own limitations. Ouch, that hurts. So as long as you don't start, the dream stays completely perfect and intact in your head. Your brain senses this potential pain of failure and desperately searches for an escape hatch. And this brilliantly illustrates the toxic loop we all fall into, pretty much without exception. When you're faced with the heavy discomfort of a complex task, you naturally look for a way out. You grab your phone, you open a new tab, and what happens next? Immediate relief. The emotional tension drops drastically. But here's the invisible trap. Your brain just learned a terrifyingly effective lesson. It literally registered that scrolling removes pain way faster than actually doing the work. Avoidance gets instantly rewarded and chemically reinforced in your mind. The cycle is complete, and it's primed to repeat endlessly. Which brings us to Section 3, the illusion of the perfect moment. A very sneaky hidden trap. Let's look at how this builds into another psychological trap. Admit it, you completely recognize this vibe. I'll start when I'm truly ready, when I feel super inspired. You know, when my desk is perfectly clean and I have a flawless step-by-step plan. It's this beautiful, comforting lie our intellect invents to mask the fact that we're just emotionally avoiding the work, waiting for all the stars to miraculously align. That's literally just avoidance dressed up as perfectionism. And the real tragedy is, the longer you wait for this mythical, perfect moment, the heavier and scarier the task becomes in your head. There's a fundamental principle from our research that you really need to keep in mind here. Clarity often comes after starting, not before. You simply cannot see the entire path from the starting line. Taking that very first, somewhat blind, completely messy step is actually the absolute prerequisite to figuring out how to take the second step. You have to give yourself permission to just begin in a state of total blurriness.
So how do we fix it? Section 4, lowering the action barrier. Time to hack the system.
All right, we've got the diagnosis. So how do we actually break the loop? How do we go from total paralysis to concrete action? This is where the whole analysis gets truly liberating. The solution is absolutely not to try and force yourself to climb the entire mountain at once through sheer willpower. The elegant solution is to hack your own system by lowering the barrier to action. In physics, just like in psychology, there's this key concept called activation energy. Think of it as the necessary spark, the hidden starting cost for a reaction to happen. Every single task you're dreading has a massive emotional starting cost. So your goal isn't to drain your energy fighting it. Your goal is to aggressively attack that starting cost, to reduce it so much, to make it so ridiculously minuscule that your brain won't even bother sounding the discomfort alarm. Now, what's really interesting about this concept is how practically you can apply it. Never, ever again tell your brain, I need to finish this massive project today. That's terrifying. Your brain is going to panic and demand a nap immediately. Instead, just gently tell it, hey, I'm just going to open up the blank Word document. That's it. It's completely harmless. Instead of the massive looming mountain of, I need to study for 2 straight hours, transform that into, I'm simply going to sit down and read the very first paragraph. By shrinking the task down to an almost laughable, tiny action, the emotional friction practically vanishes. You literally just slip right past your brain's security system. And here is where the magic happens. Section 5. Action creates motivation. Let's shift that mindset. Okay, here is the big revelation. The shift in perspective that will absolutely change how you approach your daily work. This is probably the most powerful takeaway of this entire explainer. Stop waiting for motivation. Motivation is not some magical entity that's going to strike you like lightning while you're sitting on the couch. But once you cross that tiny, sneaky starting line we just talked about, once you simply open the file or read that single sentence, something neurologically fascinating happens. Your brain locks onto the task. The anxiety of anticipating the work just evaporates because you're finally in motion, and all that internal resistance plummets. Suddenly, you realize that keeping going is actually way easier than stopping. Action creates motivation, folks, never the other way around. So the crucial point is this fascinating domino effect that triggers. The second you take action, even a microscopic one, your brain automatically aligns with that behavior. It goes, oh, okay, I'm reading my notes. I guess we're studying right now. Momentum just builds naturally and organically. Your confidence spikes because you're actually proving to yourself through real actions that you can move forward. And finally, motivation appears. Not as some prerequisite bolt from the blue, but as a beautiful, natural byproduct of your own initial action. Which leads us to the ultimate payoff, Section 6, becoming a person of action. We're talking about fundamentally changing your identity. This entire journey brings us to the ultimate destination of our emotional analysis today. Learning to manage these feelings and trick your brain into taking action, it isn't just about crossing silly items off a to-do list. The real stakes are way deeper. It's about changing who you fundamentally are. Think about it. If you spend your days repeating, oh, I'm just a procrastinator, it's just how I am, you're carving that identity into stone. You are literally giving your brain direct instructions to keep failing, just to stay consistent with that label. But by using that strategy of minimal activation energy, by accomplishing those ridiculous, tiny first steps every single day, you start accumulating undeniable proof. Proof that whispers to your mind, wait a second, actually, I am someone who starts. This simple shift in your internal dialogue radically transforms how you perceive yourself. Never forget this. Identity drives behavior infinitely more powerfully than any good intention thrown around on New Year's Eve ever will. The ultimate goal of all this emotional work, of shrinking those heavy tasks down to nothing, is to prove to yourself, tiny action by tiny action, that you are intrinsically capable of starting. You stop being a passive victim of avoidance, and you literally rewrite who you are. You become, at the very core of your identity, a person of action. Which brings me to our final thought for today's session. The very next time you feel that familiar heavy pressure in your chest, that overwhelming urge to flee toward an easy distraction just to escape the discomfort of your own ambitions, please don't ask yourself with anxiety how you're ever going to climb the whole mountain. Be your own best friend here. Be gentle, be strategic, and ask yourself only this one magic question. What is the absolute smallest, most minuscule, undeniable step I can start right now? Remember, action never, ever requires perfect conditions. It only requires a beginning. So I'll leave you with this. What will you begin today?